Every lesson is a lyric in the universal song. Oh, the lessons of the journey, I'll weave them in my song.
Hello, and welcome to Lessons of the Journey, where we discuss the stuff we actually needed to learn in school with Coach Jen and Coach Nicole.
We're so happy you joined us today. Thank you for being here with us. Today, we are talking about why happiness feels elusive. So, Jen, do you think we need to define happiness?
Absolutely. You're going to love this.
Okay.
It's the quality or state of being happy. Shocker. So let's define happy. It's an adjective, delighted, pleased, or glad as over a particular thing. As in, I'm so happy to see you. It is characterized by or indicative of pleasure, contentment, or joy. There are many more. I think we'll stick with those.
I like that. That gives us a jumping off point.
Now, we were talking about the difference between happiness and contentment.
Yeah, I think that's something that we want to talk about, and we are going to be using them interchangeably today. Contentment is a state of happiness and satisfaction. Okay, so just shoot me now.
Why are there so many damn words in the dictionary?
Okay, so first of all, I think a little clarity. This is an example sentence. He found contentment in living a simple life in the country. When you think about contentment, Jen, and you can tell me what you think, I think more about the steadiness of living. And contentment is a state I feel I can live in long term. When you were doing the definition for happiness, I kind of thought like you did, like, oh, I'm so happy to see you. But an hour after that, I may not be in that state of euphoric happiness, which is kind of, I think, how we think of happiness. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you on that, especially with your example sentence of the living in the country, because that is extremely subjective. A city guy might not feel contentment living in a simple life on the farm. So being that it's subjective, it sounds like both items can be subjective and also interchangeable. So will we be using those two words interchangeably today, or will we redefine our version of that as we're talking about why happiness feels elusive?
It's a great question. I honestly believe if our goal is 100% of the time to feel happy, is that really achievable? We're going to talk about that today. And yet, if you say, but contentment doesn't mean I have to be happy. I just have to be okay with what's happening. And overall, I'm happy, but not necessarily in every moment. I guess that's where, for me, I'm always more comfortable with the word contentment when it comes to a goal for me. I don't tend to go for happiness. I tend to go for contentment because I feel like it's achievable. For me, the way I define the word, I feel like happiness is sometimes not achievable. That being said, yes, I think we will interchangeably use the words. And I think you have to grasp with what works for you.
Absolutely. Like as in anything, we talk about what is the definition. Are we all working off of the same definition? And if that's the case when we're speaking, then we can use them interchangeably unless there's a definition that needs to be decided at that point in time. So yes, I love it. Should we get going on why happiness feels elusive?
Absolutely. Let's get into the first thing, and I like to call it the achievement trap. It's that concept of I've checked all the boxes, so why don't I feel happy at this point? We're taught that happiness is a destination. Once you get the job, you get the house, you get the partner, you have the kids. Oh, listen to last week's episode. That's not always happy. Then you'll be happy. It's this destination concept. But then when those boxes are ticked and that deep joy, that contentment, that happiness isn't there, it can actually create that inner confusion or even guilt feeling. And that's because happiness isn't a final goal. It's really a state of being, not a finish line. And that's where I would say contentment is a state of being. Happiness, I feel like ebbs and flows, but I think that state of being, contentment, it's not that finish line. And I think that's where we have to be careful in that achievement trap. What do you think about that?
I agree. And I think, especially in this productive world that we live in, right, where society has decided that non-achievement is one of those nasty words like lazy or whatever. It gives it a really negative connotation, that it's tough to take a step back and even consider, am I happy? Am I content in what's going on? I love this that you called it a trap, because I would then ask, whose boxes were they that you checked? Were they yours? Were they somebody else's expectations? We're going to dig into that in a little bit. I think you're exactly right. Deciding that I will be happy when. I've heard this really wonderful, and I'm awful at reciting quotes as they were beautifully written, and I'm gonna kind of paraphrase here. It was, if you can't be happy with a cup of coffee, you're not going to be happy with a mansion on the hill. I think that pulls in the idea that it's really not outside of you. It needs to be defined within you. And if you fall into that trap of why am I not happy, maybe it's because you don't know what your definition of happy is. I think that's a really important thing to define for yourself as an individual. Like, what are my values? What matters to me? What do I hope to put out into the world? And if I'm achieving these things that aren't a box to tick, it's a thing to strive for daily, that puts you in a different scenario. That achievement trap of the checking the boxes kind of falls away and maybe gives you a little more openness to decide, am I really happy? And if I'm not, really, what does it look like for me?
That's a really good way to put it. And I love that it's the state of being versus the finish line. I always feel like the state of being is an internal statement versus a finish line feels like an external statement. And I think you're so right when you say the cup of coffee. It's like doing the gratefuls. People that are generally tend to say they're happier, or people that are usually more grateful. And you can be grateful for sunshine. You can be grateful for thunder and lightning. You can be grateful for waking up in the morning. It can be the simplest little things. And I think that that's important when we're talking about happiness and contentment. We have to bring in that piece of, are you really seeing the beauty? It's such an important thing. And when we go, okay, I'll be happy when I have that mansion on the hill, people will say to me, because being people that have moved to the state of Hawaii, there's that, oh my gosh, did you move there? And just like everything was fantastic. And I remember someone once saying to me, no matter where you move, even it's wonderful and beautiful and the most special place on the planet, you take yourself with you.
Yep.
Which makes you take all the stuff. It's not where you live necessarily, although there are definitely sometimes nicer places to live. It's not going to change that contentment within you, though. It's because that's internal. You bring you with you. So what's going on inside? Yeah. Are we looking at those goals and saying, once I achieve that, I'm going to be happy? No, you're not.
Yeah. You said something that sparked me. I'm thinking of folks who have gone through some sort of life-changing event, whether it be physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, whatever, where it takes them out of the perceived achievement trap. I am happy because I woke up today, because yesterday I might not have had that opportunity. There's some events in people's lives that are earth-shattering that help them wake up with a new perspective. And nothing really on the day-to-day outside of that massive catastrophic event in their personal lives shifted that perspective to, I don't need to achieve to understand that happiness is a place inside me. And all of those things that I was doing before this whole, like maybe I got hit by a bus, or I mean, these things happen. I know somebody who this happened to. It's the version of yourself that is anew. And when all of those achievement traps are taken away, what is it then that you have to be happy with? And that, like you said, Nicole, is inside of you. I think that's a really great lead in to what we're going to talk about next, which is that external versus the internal expectation. Whose version of happiness am I chasing? I will raise my hand and say, fell into it for 38 years. Yes, we absorb definitions of success and joy and whatever else things are supposed to look like. We get it from culture, from our family. We get it from social media. Very often they don't align with what our true values are. And as a woman, many women between the ages of maybe 30s to 50s, they start realizing that they have built a life thus far around expectations, more specifically, other people's expectations of who they are, what they should be doing, what should make them happy or content even, and not necessarily their own desires. So I think that real contentment and real happiness often begin with unlearning all of these things that conditioned us to be the way that we are and personally redefining what our own happiness looks like.
100%. You know, I'm massive on we all need to know our values. Our tagline is all the stuff they should have taught you in school. The one thing I really truly wish more than anything is teach children that what they value is important to know and acknowledge and understand. Because then we would have adults that know and acknowledge and understand their own values. This was not even on the radar until maybe 10 years ago. I know Brene Brown talks about it. What do you value? She's got her sheet with like 60 things on it, and you break it down and you really figure out, what do I thrive with? And you figure out those values. And that is huge. And yes, society's handing them to you. Your friends are handing them to you. Your family's handing them to you. Your kids are handing them to you. Mm-hmm. And what do you value? And you would show up so much better if you knew what you valued, because then you would know, what do you need? What do you need from others? And how can you feel supported? And all of that creates a platform, I believe, for feeling that contentment, for feeling that happiness, for feeling that joy that we sometimes just don't have because we're living somebody else's expectations.
Yeah. This happens very naturally in childhood. And we've talked about this before on a different episode. The natural inclination to fit in, to be a part of something. As children, that's the most important thing. Your social group, what's going on in school, these are so important. And so as children, when we're not very clear, if our family hasn't done a great job of helping us understand, in fact, what the values of the family are, it's so easy to get lost in what the other kids are doing or what the other kids find so important. For a majority of our childhood, we're really just attempting to figure out who we are within that without being incredibly embarrassed about something, because God forbid I'm embarrassed about something. And I remember that feeling, just how mortifying it is to feel like you stick out, and how you just so badly want to fit in. And the juxtaposition between that and being an adult and finally understanding that, in fact, we were built to stand out. We were given all of these amazing, beautiful qualities that we're not meant to fit in. We are supposed to go out and find our tribe. And that only can happen when we are true to who we are. So it's such an interesting thing that going through childhood, going through school, learning what they tell us to learn, and not what are your values? What does this mean to you? What does that look like in your life? What happens if somebody next to you doesn't value the same thing? Do you shy away? Do you respect that? Can you have an open conversation and still walk away whole? These are all things that I never did. I will tell you that I lived my parents' version of happy for me, what they wanted for me to be happy. I did that until I had my first child in various ways, shapes, and forms. That's because my family was always very involved and very supportive, and they are. And we have a beautiful relationship now. I just didn't know what myself as an individual looked like. When I was pregnant with my first, I remember cocooning. I felt like I kind of entrapped myself. I was learning how to find that little girl inside of me that knew so much of who she was, but had it conditioned out of her in order to make things easier for other people. it was a massive transition, just like a butterfly emerging. And I think the first time I ever stood up to my mom was after I had my first child. It wasn't like a big confrontational thing. It was just no, I'm not going to go with your thing. I'm going to go with my thing because this is my kid and this is the way and she respected it. And I went, oh, and I was really proud of myself at 38 years old. And now I'm almost 44 and still figuring it out. I would just like to tell everybody, this is an ongoing process, y'all. We're introduced to new information on a regular in which an open mind would consider, disseminate the good stuff, get rid of the bad, and take it in for, is that part of who I want myself to be? Does that feel genuine and authentic to myself? Really making sure that we're creating those internal expectation versus living up to somebody else's.
So for the people in the back, I'm going to repeat something you said. I had to write it down. That right there is gold. Can you have an open conversation and still walk away whole? That is such a powerful question. I know a lot of adults that the answer is absolutely not, especially in the environment we have right now. Even just going and having a political conversation and walk away whole, I feel like most people can't even do that. When we have that getting in touch with what is internal for you, we respect what's internal for others, and we start having a level of respect we show up with, it changes the world. When we have that ability to say, hey, this is what I value, and somebody goes, oh, that's really cool. I value this. How come you value that? That's so neat. That's so different than what I value. And then suddenly we're embracing differences versus having to be, well, we have to think the same and we have to be the same. I actually don't like a tribe that all thinks the way I think. People will say, oh yeah, me too. But I'm going to call BS on most of you because most of you don't want that tribe, because you don't want to have to challenge the way you think and go, okay, I have internal biases and I'm going to take what you say and I'm going to think about that. That's a lot of energy. And I love that. I love variety in my tribe and people who go, I totally think oppositely of you, and can still sit down and say, okay, tell me why you think oppositely, and have an actual conversation. The respect I need, the agreement I don't. I want to understand differences and variety and embrace it. And I feel like this is the core of that. It's understanding, okay, if I know what I internally need to be content and be happy, well, no, that's not going to be the same as anybody else. You're like, I get it. I get what I need. Obviously, that's not going to look the same as other people. And then it's intriguing and interesting. And you start having these real rich conversations with people. I feel like it makes the world a richer place when we're all in touch with our internal. I really do.
I agree. And I think what we run into when there's, let's call it a disagreement, it challenges what we perceive to be our safety. And when we feel threatened, like our safety, this is the thing that I've believed my whole life. It's gotten to me where I'm at. I'm safe. I'm okay. And you're challenging that. And if I were to receive that and accept it, that means that what I've been doing this whole time is not okay. That means that I feel unsafe now because I'm on unstable ground. And that makes sense at a human level. I think what I would hope that folks understand is that we are able and capable, as the complex beings that we are, to hold multiple emotions all at once. Meaning you can feel unsafe, and that doesn't need to challenge the version of happiness that you've decided gets to exist within inside of you. So you can take that information, as Nicole was talking about, challenge me. I want to learn. I'm interested. It might feel unsafe initially, and it doesn't mean that you can't be happy with it. And those are two very different things that we can hold at the same time.
I would agree with that. I look at it a little bit differently. I feel like for me, when I'm in one of those conversations that's a bit of a challenge, I feel sometimes uncomfortable. I don't think I ever feel unsafe. This is not a lion that's about to eat me.
Yeah.
This is just a conversation with a person who believes differently. And that may be for me because I was living in a openly gay household in junior high. Mm-hmm. We're talking 40 years ago. So I lived on a fringe of society anyway. And I think that made me more open to, okay, so there's all these people that believe this thing that I don't believe. Why do you guys believe that? Like, what's that all about? And it made me inquire. I'm curious about religions. I'm not a religious person, but I'm very curious about religions and the things that are taught. I find it fascinating. And I like to learn about things that are different than me. Now, I'm sure I have my level. I think we all have our comfort level where we do start to feel unsafe. I probably just don't get into those kinds of conversations often, but you're probably right. There is probably a safety mechanism there because that's our internal bias. I mean, our internal bias is so jaded. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about the bike study where a person on a bike gets hit by a car, not fatal accident, anything like that. And they have people come in and write the story from the perspective of the person driving the car. It's the biker's weaving, the biker dashed out, the biker did everything wrong. And then they had to tell the story from they're the biker. And then it's the car's speeding, the car's doing this wrong, and the car's doing that wrong. We're always want to make ourselves correct. I think that's what we have to check sometimes when we're talking about other people. I know we've got off on a little tangent, but I think it's interesting. And I think this is a fascinating conversation to have. And it really does come into that if we all have the space to all explore our internal expectations. I want everyone in my world to be content and happy, not just me. And if I'm content and happy and nobody else is, sorry, but that's not a fun place to be.
Yeah. Takes away a little bit of the happiness.
Yeah. And can you really be content and happy if the people in your world that you care about and love don't have that? I think we want all of them to feel that way. That's my thought.
I compartmentalize so easily. So it might dampen it. I'm big on holding it all. But you know what? In a relationship, and this is some content that I've consumed, you can have the best day and want to share it with, let's call it your spouse, when you get home. And you get home and you can see it all over their face that they had just a shit day. You don't want to be like, I'm so happy I had a great day, I want to tell you all about it, when they're like, that's awesome, like today sucked. So there's a version of that.
Yeah. And that does lead into the next thing, which is that comparison culture. We're humans. I remember distinctly walking out of the casino and I was there with my husband's nephews and I walked out, I won $400 and he's like, I lost $500. It's like, I felt so bad. I felt bad because I had won. And because I know he's sitting there going, well, shit, that comparison culture. Okay, this person's having a fantastic day. What's wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I not have that? That really makes happiness feel elusive when we've got that social media, Instagram, perfect lives, and everyone else is thriving and everyone's having such a great time and it's all going wonderfully. We talked about this in the parenting podcast. It's like, where's the reality? Show me the burnout. Show me the loneliness. Show me the anxiety. Show me the facts. I want to see the real life. We're just seeing people's highlights. And that makes it so difficult for us to go, oh, well, my life's actually pretty amazing because it doesn't look perfect all the time. I don't know what these Instagram perfect lives are.
That sounds like so much energy. That's why I'm not all over Instagram. I can't get the right angle on my photos. I'm not going on fancy vacation. I live in Hawaii. So I mean, it's what's dragging society down. It's so interesting that with all of the advances that we've made as a collective conscience, the society part, it reminds me of the 1950s, where you dress your kids up nice and you put the dress on and you have dinner ready at home and you invite people over and the fake smiles and just the show that you would have to put on. And even receiving this from my grandmothers. Oh, you don't talk about that. You don't tell people about your problems. We don't air our dirty laundry. I air all of my dirty laundry. It's hanging right there. You can ask me about it. And so we just shifted it from one form to another. Now it's on social media, whereas it existed in real life. Can you imagine how exhausting that must have been back in the day? Oh, you can't talk about any of your problems. You can't ask for help from anybody. You must present this perfect picture. And if you're having problems, it's your fault and all of those things. And so when we go and we see the fancy vacations, we're like, man, I don't make enough money to take fancy vacations. What's wrong with me? Or look how happy they look. I just fought with my person and that sucks. They must be much more happy than I am because look at those smiles. Yeah, we get everybody's highlight reel. And that's why statistically it's so detrimental to developing teenage brains.
Yep, absolutely. It totally amplifies our sense of that lacking because I don't know about you, but I do find myself sometimes when I'm feeling in a lower space going to those types of things because they're addictive. And I think we are triggered into our addictions when we're feeling lower. Then, okay, let's say you did just get in a fight with your partner and you're feeling low. Then you go on Instagram and you're seeing all these Instagram perfect lives and you're like, what's wrong with me? And these people are not posting right after they had an argument when they're a mess. They are posting the little perfect parts of themselves. And it really makes us feel like, okay, well, maybe my life is a mess because everybody else has got it perfect. It's bullshit. And I'm calling bullshit on it. We have to stop with this comparison culture. We really do. We have got to understand that this is not reality. I mean, if you want reality, go watch reality TV. That's my joke for the day. Because it's not real. It's BS.
Yeah, there is some version, and it takes discipline to remember. We have to condition ourselves. What would be so wrong with us going, wow, Nicole's on a cruise. That's great for her. I'm happy. I don't need to compare myself. I can be happy for you. I can be happy with you. I can be so excited that I get to see all of your beautiful pictures from the places you've been and kind of dream about would I want to go there or would I really want to go over here to this place? Why is it that it is such a negative thing to see and then compare? Because we're comparing the highlight reel to our worst day. That's why it feels so bad. We could change that narrative if we had enough wherewithal or awareness to understand that that's great for them. And I have things that are great for me. But I agree with you in that somehow we find our way to those things when we are feeling less than.
And then it's hard to tap into what you're talking about because it's like, yeah, if I can go in there in a positive space, then I'm like, fantastic, Jen's doing this. Hashtag goals. We'll put that on one of my lists. Maybe I'll go there. That sounds like fun. Or, oh my gosh, just look at that person. They're having a great time. I want people to enjoy life. That's easy to access when we're feeling at our highest. Mm-hmm. When we're feeling at our lowest, I think that's really hard to access. I actually think that that's the issue in itself is that going to social media when we're feeling at our lowest is probably the worst thing.
It really is.
Go find an animal to touch or go find a person you love to talk to.
Go for a walk. Yeah, it's easier said than done because we are just, at that point, leading into the next thing, we're just a little bit numb to our own lives, to what's going on because burnout and emotional numbness is a thing. It's an actual real thing that happens to all of us. Have you ever been so tired you don't even have a feeling? The emotions are gone. I'm so tired. I don't even know what I feel. I don't even know if I'm capable of feeling right now. I just went through this, especially for women in midlife. We're juggling careers, families, ailing, aging parents. There's not a lot of time or space or brain capacity or energy inside of our bodies to check in with ourselves, to check in with our own joy. Chronic stress, it's like a natural thing these days. It dulls our emotional spectrum. When our cortisol is shooting through the roof, we are literally in fight or flight. We are in protection, save ourselves mode. Your emotions go away. We're just trying to stay safe right now. So you might not be sad, but you're not happy. You might be angry. You don't know why. You might feel just nothing. I would call that numb. And when you feel that numb, it's like happiness is totally out of reach. How could I even possibly get there? What does that even look like for me right now? I've been in places where I've thought, I would love to just feel something, anything. I don't even know that it needs to be happy. I just want to feel. And can I tell you, when I fixed my hormones, all of it went away.
I was going to say, we got to add hormones in there because all of that, I'm sitting there going, I can work on my emotional numbness. I can work on my complete and utter burnout. But when my hormones are out of whack, I can't even work on those things because I'm burned out at a level that I can't even explain or talk about. And I can't align it. And it can be hormonal too. Yeah, 100%.
I said something the other day to a friend of mine because when I say I just went through this, we're talking in the very recent months that I just got this figured out for myself. And I made a joke and it was a self-deprecating joke. And I got told, I said, oh my gosh, my body's addicted to estrogen. Ha ha ha. And my friend straight came back and was like, no, Jen, your body's addicted to functioning in the way that it was designed to function. And I went, snap,
drop.
That's right. Now, if we feel like this every once in a while, that calls for awareness. That calls for
Yes.
mindfulness. What is going on? What can I do to shift this particular? If this is happening day after day, night after night, and it becomes a pattern in your life, go seek help. Go see a doctor, get some blood work done, go to a talk therapist, start figuring out what's going on. Because if that becomes chronic, there is an underlying issue that needs to be addressed there.
Yeah, then we're talking hormones and we're also potentially talking depression. I agree with you. Burnout is legit. I think this is more of a thing when you are dealing with little ones, the space of burnout for women. And then on top of that, or the menopause stuff. I agree with you.
You lose so much of yourself in those times when your children are young. You almost forget who you were or who you thought you were. Yeah. And at some point, it comes back and it takes a lot. Just don't keep it to yourself. Talk about it. There's people out there going through the same thing, and it helps to know that you're not the only one.
On the flip side, let's talk a little bit about the myth of constant happiness. If I'm not happy all the time, I must be doing life wrong. So this is how my husband, our joke is, if rainbows and unicorns aren't shooting out of my ass, he wants to fix it. That's our joke. He's like, I want you happy all the time. And I'm like, that's not achievable.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be happy all the time.
But thanks, Tim. That's real. That's a good thing to shoot for us.
I love that that's your goal, right? I love that.
Yes.
But let's be honest, people often mistake contentment for that perpetual joy. And that's what I was talking about. The contentment means I'm content with my life overall. It's that overarching, whereas perpetual joy is never going to happen unless you're, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a fictional character that has perpetual joy. Joy from
the Inside Out.
Thank you.
Yes.
Joy from Inside Out. Unless you're joy from inside out, you are not going to have perpetual joy. It's just not going to happen. And of course, she is the one emotion amongst many. I relate more to anxiety, frankly, than joy at this point in my life. But that's just not real. You're talking about 24/7 happiness. No, that's never going to happen. We're looking for that really content, grounded sense of peace. I love the term sense of peace. Fulfillment. Overarching alignment. And when I think of word. Alignment, I always think of alignment with your values. Again, what we were talking about. If we can align with our values, we feel so much better, even when life is all messy. Accepting those emotional waves makes happiness more sustainable. Again, we're talking that contentment. It's sustainable if we're like, okay, life is waves. We just want to keep those waves kind of on that normal scale, not like, my arms going really high and really low. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, no. Happened to me. They put you on drugs for that.
It's not a good thing.
That's not desirable. I can speak to, it wasn't evident when I was a child, and I don't even think that it was true when I was a child, that my later diagnosis of bipolar disorder would have existed at that point in time. Although I do remember having emotional, I want to call them swings, but that sounds very dramatic. And when I mean swings, not loud and boisterous and outgoing and excited. I remember just feeling par, which is fine, contentment. And one of my parents would say, "Are you in a mood today?" I would have to be like, "Am I in a mood? Is this a mood?" And I started regularly questioning my moods. Is this a mood that is allowed to show up? I don't know if it was sent this way. I was receiving it as any changes in your moods are not okay. We want you to stay where we find it to be acceptable. And now, again, if I spoke to my parents who I have a great relationship with, they would say, no, it was just, you were reacting or responding. You were just acting different. But then again, why isn't that okay? Why can't the full spectrum of me be okay? And why can't even just par, where I'm not overly excited about anything, but I'm not sad or angry about? Why can't par just be one of those okay places? Contentment can live in par. Even happiness can live, especially if you have had those bipolar swings. Man, I'll tell you what happiness is. It's par. I'm feeling just normal today. This is great. So that's an extremely subjective way of thinking about it. I would say when people speak to you, it is very much with intent that more than likely is not being picked up on. Not everybody knows how to say things the exact right way that we're going to receive it. So if somebody's questioning your mood, I would say check in with you and be very honest. No, I'm not in a mood. I'm just here right now. I'm fine. I'm not overly excited. You're allowed to be that, is my point. You're allowed to be whatever it is. I'm going to be the first one as your coach to say, just own it. If you're pissed off today, own it. Be like, you know what? I'm in a really bad mood. It's probably not a good time for that talk. If you're sad, you know what? I'm just kind of feeling down. That's just what today is. It's not you. It's nothing in particular. Whatever. Own it. Because if we're to have a conversation and Nicole came to me and said, I'm not feeling well today. Well, I'm going to take that into consideration in what our conversation is going to look like. For agreements, I'm not going to take anything personally. If it comes off weird or wrong, or she wants to cancel something, she's owning it. She's letting me know up front. This is where I'm at. This is how I'm coming to you. And then it's my job to receive that. So I guess coming from that little girl who did this and lived up to other people's versions of happiness is when you can check in with yourself and own whatever is happening inside of you, you're that much more able to find your version of happiness and clearly define it, therefore find it.
I would agree with that 100%. I would also say that being the person who's holding the space for you to be able to feel how you feel is often harder.
Yes.
I mean, the joke, my husband wants rainbows and unicorns. He really had a hard time if I wasn't in a good space. And he's learned to be okay with not taking it personally, because that's the first thing that happens. Mm-hmm. You're my child. I want you to feel good all the time. And if you don't, is it my fault? Or you're my partner or whatever it is it my fault? And not taking it personally, it's just the space I'm in. I just need space, and I need you to hold space for me to feel whatever my emotions are in that moment. And obviously there's rules around how you can express emotions. You can't be mean. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'll be like, look, I'm just not in a good space, especially going through the perimenopause stuff. It's like sometimes there's no answer. I can't explain it. I don't know the answer. I just know that right now things are not good. Don't talk to me about important stuff. Okay, I can do that. I can hold that space for you. And that's really a challenge as a loving person to another person, being able to hold space. So we all got to work on that. I know I'm not always good about that.
Welcome to humanness, Nicole.
No, I want to be a robot.
So something that we have touched on, big T, little t, trauma. And so me working 44 years, you working 54 years, we have these stories that have created who we are. And a lot of them are unhealed. If you've lived a life, any kind of life, you have emotional baggage. Like we're carrying all the things. And often we get to a place in our life, and I can tell you that I've been here many times. I'm not sure I deserve happiness. This has happened. That has happened. I question my worth as a human. Old traumas, limiting beliefs, or just even the sense of a lack of worth. This can create an inner ceiling inside of us. I can get here, but I can't go beyond that because I don't deserve it. So if someone doesn't believe that they're enough, they might, and I'm raising my hand because all of this is me, may unconsciously block happiness or sabotage moments of joy, thinking, well, this is fleeting. It's not going to last. So I'm not going to sit here and enjoy it because then it's going to, make me feel a certain way when I lose it or if I lose it, with that kind of expectation. So here, healing these things plays a huge role in our belief that we deserve to be happy simply because we are here walking this earth.
I have 100% dealt with this. Self-worth. Do I even deserve happiness? Maybe I don't. I've thought those thoughts more times than I want to admit.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's true. And there's a lot of big T's, little T's, lots of unhealed, traumatical. Now I'm just making shit up.
Yeah.
We're making up our own words. Unhealed trauma and emotion that comes along with that. And big T, big trauma, little T, little traumas. And I've been working on lately, I listened to this podcast. It's Hidden Brain. I've mentioned that one before. I love it. It's this one about grievances. So it's forgiving people you hold grievances against. And it's very powerful stuff. I've listened to it 3 times already. I just want to listen to it over and over and over again because I feel like I have so much forgiveness to do. It's that healing, right? What healing am I doing right now? Are we doing the healing? Are we taking the time to heal? It takes time.
A very powerful thing that I did not make up. This is Hawaiian, I'm going to say a format to take ourselves through a version of this healing. I invite everybody to try it with any and all things that they are struggling with. It's this concept of ho'oponopono. And it's a 4-line thing. And you start with, I'm sorry. So you can do this with somebody. I find it extremely powerful to do with myself when I'm finding that I'm having trouble shedding things. And so it's a way of reconnecting and working with this emotional baggage. So I'm sorry is the first line. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And I just got chills. When you're doing it with somebody else, it really opens the door to reconnect when there's a mishap. When you do it with yourself, there's something so powerful. There's this release of something inside of you because you have to sit with it. I'll use myself as an example. I'm sitting with 6-year-old little Jen and I'm saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you didn't know what you didn't know, and that your parents didn't know what they didn't know, or that your friend on the playground didn't know what they didn't know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, little girl. Please forgive me. I couldn't protect you then. I didn't know what to tell you. Your parents didn't know. You didn't know how to get help. You didn't know how to ask. Please forgive me for all of those things. Thank you. You're thanking yourself for allowing that space. You didn't know. You know better now. And you would do differently now. And then I love you, which is a very powerful thing to say to yourself or to somebody if you're attempting a reconnect. But I love you. That really does something to the piece that you are attempting to heal. So in a quiet moment, I invite you, if this calls to any of you, try that. Try it with somebody that you would like a repair with. Try it with yourself when you're addressing some of these unhealed stories that maybe would serve you to let go of so you can really go and find some happiness.
Beautiful. Yes. I love that. Smart. The last thing that I think that we kind of do sometimes when it comes to having happiness feel elusive is fearing change. And I think a fear of change goes back to what you were talking about, which is the safety mechanism. Because yes, we don't have the lions chasing us, but we're still those bodies. We haven't evolved. So we still have that. Wait, if there's change, that can feel unsafe. If I let myself be happy, what might I lose? If I lose something, is that going to feel not safe? True happiness might require setting boundaries. Ooh, we have an episode on that. Ending toxic relationships, or even making some bold life shifts, which can feel very destabilizing. And so many people really do cling to what's familiar. And we talked about habits in our habits episode. Sometimes we hold on to what's familiar, even if it's unfulfilling. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to what you were talking about with, is it internal or external? But it's safer. So sometimes that can keep joy just out of reach, that fear of change.
Yeah. Speaking for myself, the unknown is scary. It might be unfulfilling. It might even make me sad sometimes, but it's the unfulfilled sadness that I know. I don't know what's on the other side. I 100% agree with you. There's even the fear of success. What? Who is afraid of being successful? Yeah, all of us at some point, I think, because that does mean that there are shifts and changes happening. What am I missing out on? What am I losing? Like what you said, if I become this next version of myself, it's scary. I get it.
This brings me to, it's different, but it feels the same. I remember when I was dealing with my older son when he was younger, and I was talking to a therapist, and I was like, why does he act so mean sometimes? And she said, because his meanness will get a response from you, and he just wants a response. He doesn't actually care whether it's a positive or a negative response from you. He's just looking for a response. And I remember thinking, why would anyone want a negative response? It makes it sound like I wasn't giving him positive responses, which of course I was. You know, he's a child, so obviously he's just doing what comes natural. And she said, we just sometimes need a response, and we don't care how we get it or what it looks like. When I hear fear of change, I hear that same kind of thing. We're sitting in a space that sort of sucks, but we don't want to change it because it's comfortable. It's fulfilling what we think we need based on where we are. And yet it's almost like that child who will do something bad to get a response from you, even though it's a negative response.
Yeah.
It's like we're still doing that same thing.
Yeah. It's easy then for the adult mind to justify, I can't do that because then da 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 da. Humans are pretty simple in some forms. We do something because we get something out of it, whether it's positive or negative, just like what that therapist was saying. We do something because we get something out of it. Very often, and I know that you know this as a coach, when we pose that question to folks, and if somebody's just bitched about the bed, this is awful, and they suck. Okay, so what are you getting out of this? And they go, nothing. Okay, well, that's not true, because you stay in the pattern. So we need to get to the thing. What is the thing that you are getting out of this? It's not in the forefront of your mind. It's in there though. And we need to find it so that you can identify that, oh, that's where the setting of the boundaries comes from, or that's where the shift or movement and what the next thing needs to be, because we've then identified what I am getting out of this, even though it was subconscious. It could be from years and years and years of trauma that you don't even understand. You've heard both of us say this before. If it's no longer serving you, that's when it comes up. That's where we find, oh, a different thing needs to happen and I feel stuck, or something needs to change. I just don't know what it is. It's because those patterns, the fear of making those shifts, those changes have served you for so long, and something in your life now is telling you it's no longer serving you. And that is a little bit scary. So, yeah.
Sure. I mean, that's having to admit what is that pattern feeding in you. It's usually not a good thing. I think as humans, we actually think, wait, if I'm that child just trying to get negative attention, that's crazy. I'm an adult. I don't try to get negative attention. I'm smarter than that. Guess what? No, you're not.
Yeah.
Sorry. Because you're still just that little child, especially if that's an unhealed trauma from your childhood.
Exactly.
You don't really know until you explore it and you get into it. It's fascinating. And I agree with you. That's very scary. That's getting into the, wait, I'm doing something that is, when you really look at it from a rational mind, feels kind of nuts.
Yes.
It's like, wait, I don't do things like that because I'm a normal functioning adult. Yes, you are. And that's actually normal for a normal functioning adult to be dealing with those things in that way. But it feels weird. Yeah, feels uncomfortable.
You just sparked something in me. I had a quote book. I was that kid. I like to learn from other people. That's been a lifelong thing for me. And a friend of mine wrote in my quote book when I was in high school, she wrote, normal is just a setting on the washing machine. And that has evolved in my mind even over the last 25 years. We just got a new washing machine. And back in high school, there were 3 settings on the washing machine. It was like normal, heavy, or something else, right? My new washing machine has like 17 settings. It's like colors with soak, white with soak, bulky. There are so many settings. And I went, holy shit, Tina was right. There is no normal. Sometimes it's this, and sometimes it's this, and sometimes it's this. So in regard to the fear of change, it's going to be okay. You put it on bulky because right now you got those bulky sheets in there and it's okay. And then tomorrow it might be a normal load. But you know what? You're human and you're going through all of the things. And I can tell you that I am happy that I have all of those settings on my washing machine.
That's awesome. I love that.
So to wrap this all up, here's a thought. Happiness is less about adding more, achieving, getting there, reaching a destination. And it's more about coming home to yourself. So we would like to encourage whoever's listening to explore what your own version or versions of happiness looks like for you, without all the filters, without the trends, without the pressure, without taking polls from your friends. And I think real magic starts there.
I would say ditto to that. I'm going to go right into my takeaway because this feeds into it. And when you just said coming home to yourself, like that's, again, just your values, what what feeds your soul. I remember having this shopping bag, and it's something like, what the world needs is more people who are living their fullest lives, or something like that. And it's like, okay, these things are great, but what the hell does that mean? Well, you know what that means? That means understanding your values, understanding what makes you happy, and doing these things. These things. This is fulfillment, contentment, happiness. So I love that. That's my takeaway, is it's all about understanding your internal self.
So good. Mine is the same. It's just very personally, it's been a journey, and I think one that I am not alone on. And the reiteration of really where happiness and contentment can, or quote should, lie in your life exists only according to you. And if you are able to get the confidence, the courage, the bravery to step up and say, this is what my version of happiness looks like. And it's okay that that's nobody else's version. It's mine. And I'm the only one that needs to fill it, because it's my body that dies at the end of this. If I'm not seeking out what makes me happy, what's the point? I am a unique individual, and people love me for all of who I am. And that's the best thing I can ask for. So thank you for that reiteration of just, you were meant to be who you were meant to be. And I think that that's the most beautiful thing in this life.
And as we often say, give yourself grace for this, because sometimes you'll go, this is what feeds me. And then you'll do it and I don't feel fed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can change your mind. You can go, maybe that's not the thing. Maybe I need to explore this a little bit more.
Yeah.
Hey, it's all a practice.
We're a constant science experiment on ourselves. I'll tell you that. Oh, I thought it was this. It's not. Good information.
Yes, exactly.
I will move on with this information.
Speaking of information, let's go into our questions.
Let's do it. You want to go first?
Yes.
Okay. This is a fun one. I'm so excited to hear your story. What is your best "my coworkers are crazy" story?
Oh my God. Boy. I have to think about my coworkers. I mean, I know so many crazy stories because my husband was like the big boss, and he's a guy. Guys do stupider stuff.
Yes.
I don't know what the deal is, but guys do stupider stuff. And as he's listening to this podcast, like right now, he's going to be like crapping his pants going, please don't tell one of my stories. Don't share those. I don't want those out there. Okay, I'm going to go with this one. This did not happen in front of me. I only heard the story, but I can tell you 100% I knew this guy. In fact, I went on a date with this guy before I started dating my husband. He was a manager in one of the restaurants. And so he had a baby with this woman, and he got pissed at her because she wouldn't change the kid's diaper. So he took a crappy diaper and put it on her pillow. And he was like, change the freaking kid. And not only did he do this, but he told me about it. Which I was like, God. The fact that you would actually tell people that you did something so awful. Like,
wow.
I think he got the point across, I think.
Wow. Yeah.
But I was like, wow, you really did that. And he's like, yeah, she needs to change those diapers. You are a whack job. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah, he nuts.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's my coworker's crazy story, I guess.
All right. That one works. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. My question is, what do you most look forward to about getting old?
I know this one right off the top. The I don't give a fuck. That's what I most look forward to. You're going to be like your kid in the middle of Walmart. I farted. Yeah. I don't give a fuck. I have a joke with my two best friends that when we get old, we have to live near each other. And one of us has to have a very large porch that we can sit out on with our rocking chairs and our canes, just shaking them at people as they walk by. You're driving too fast. Ooh, look at you, handsome. You know, just all of them. Yeah, that's what I most look forward to. It's the shedding of all of the things that I've created over the first 40 years that I would like to unlearn and redistribute over the last 40 years. That's my most exciting thing about growing old.
I love that. And what do you consider old?
Oh, gosh. 80.
Okay. You got to say a safe age. I got a husband that's 2 years below 70. I'm like, old. It keeps getting an older age.
That is true. As I get older, is extremely elusive. I'll tell you though, I was scrolling social media last night and I found an 84-year-old woman on Tinder.
I'm sorry?
84 on Tinder.
Go. Do you know, I have heard these old folks homes, there's a lot of sex going on in those
Oh yeah.
places as well.
Oh yeah. And and then a lot of jealousy. There's some physical fights. These
They're
women
like,
are
"What
like,
do I
he's
care?"
mine.
A lot of unprotected sex. They're like, we're going to die one way or the other.
You know?
It's
Okay.
all get laid a lot.
That's it. Why not? Right? Why not?
Inhibition's out the window.
The 80s, she's like, I like younger men. I was like, go girl, if it's working for you. And she was not shy. She's like, I'm not trying to find a husband. Mine's dead. I'm trying to fuck.
Jen, I need clarity. You just said you were on social media and you saw someone on Tinder.
Yeah, I didn't see her on Tinder. I saw the story on social media.
Okay, I'm just clarifying for
and
you.
And the story, no, I'm not on Tinder. You can look, I'm not there. Yeah, no, the story was of her talking about her being on Tinder. And like on the story, she's swiping through. Yeah, it was hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
Get it,
yeah,
Granny.
You go, girl.
I like it.
Go get those young ones.
Yep. It was so funny. I was like, if I could only. She's putting the gold dress on to go out on a date. And I was like, I need to get me a gold dress.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's what I look forward to.
Okay. I want to live near you.
You're invited to the porch, Nicole.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Oh, goodness.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. You can check us out on Instagram at Lessons of the Journey. And please follow our show on your favorite podcast streaming service. If you found value in today's podcast, please feel free to share it with anyone you think might find value in it too. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Write your lines with passion, let your spirit freely roam. The lessons of your journey.